You're watching The End Zone, sponsored by Lucky Star Casino.
Welcome into The End Zone alongside Josh Callaway. I'm Adam King. Game 6 is in the books and not good.
No, not good at all.
Yeah,
not good at all.
Not what we'd like to see. We got Colby Daniels live on the ground at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. We're going to check. Oh, there he is right there. Colby, let's just go right to it, man. Tough one for the team there.
Yeah, I think you guys nailed it with the not good reference off the top. I mean, it's pretty crazy to think the Thunder actually led this game 10-2 to start, and you thought that maybe they were on their way to potentially winning an NBA title tonight. And really from that point on, the Pacers took a timeout. They immediately went on an 8-0 run to tie the game and then take the lead eventually. And it was really all Indiana the rest of the way. I was just pretty surprised to see how shook it seemed like the Thunder offense was by the overall physicality of this Indiana defense. You knew that this was going to be a physical matchup, especially with Indiana backed into a corner, their season on the line, and the Thunder were just nowhere near matching their urgency tonight.
Yeah, it just felt like everything flipped from Game 5, and you could kind of see it in SGA's pace of play. It wasn't smooth. He didn't seem very comfortable, and even he had, right before the end of the first half, he kind of walked up and stopped and got his bearings and had a great possession. I was like, okay, here we go. He figured it out. We're going to take the break at halftime and flip this thing around. He just never quite seemed like he got his feet set in that environment, which was kind of odd to see.
Yeah, I thought you nailed it, with the urgency. We talked about that a lot after Game 3 against Minnesota, where it felt like the Thunder were up 2-0 in that series, didn't come out and match the Timberwolves' intensity with their season on the line, basically. And obviously they got blown out of the building that night in Minnesota, and kind of almost the exact same thing happened here tonight against Indianapolis. The Thunder looked like a team that had buffer, and the Pacers looked like a team that knew they had to win or it was over. And they didn't match that after that 10-2 start that Colby referenced. The big thing for me, too, we mentioned a lot, Colby, the bench. The bench was terrible tonight again. They haven't been nearly as good in Indianapolis. In your opinion, just that aspect of the game, because, again, Aaron Wiggins, Cason Wallace, they got little to no bench production until the fourth quarter when it was all bench guys. But before that, the bench, again, gave them nothing tonight. That was a huge X factor.
Yeah, I mean, look, the bench is always going to be better on the home floor than away, and that's sort of the expectation, I think. And they were kind of put in a situation where it kind of felt like OKC was already behind the 8 ball by the time the bench really got involved. So, I don't know that it's necessarily fair tonight to say like Aaron Wiggins and Cason Wallace and that group should have rescued the Thunder from the hole the starters built, but I mean, SGA just seemed off the entire night. J-Dub was really the only one that at any point in the game seemed comfortable offensively. But, when we talk, as you mentioned, Josh, we talk a lot about urgency, and the Thunder just lacking that urgency. I think the best way to look at urgency usually is on the defensive side of the ball, right? Sometimes shots go down, sometimes they don't. But when you play with urgency, it's noticeable defensively. And I thought the physicality that Indiana played with offensively really bothered the Thunder, and the Thunder didn't nearly bring the same physicality on the other end.
Yeah, it's something you can't fake, right? Like when you have that down 3-2, right, you got to have it. You can't fake it. The other thing I think I've noticed, because I had it wrote down in my notes about 5 different times, and I can't believe we're going to wait till, I guess, the precipice of this series to ask it, guys, is do we have a TJ McConnell problem?
Yeah.
Like a legitimate problem that needs to be, figured out and actually worked on, because that guy was out rebounding Isaiah Hartenstein and pulling loose balls away from him. He was controlling. I mean, we're talking about Halliburton, who is or whatever he wasn't with the injury and stuff going on. It felt like at parts of this game that if they didn't have Halliburton and they wanted McConnell to orchestrate that team and orchestrate this game, the result could have been the same. So is this like an actual problem now that needs to be drilled down in the next couple days to make sure this doesn't happen on our own floor?
Go ahead, Colby.
Yeah, look, throughout this playoff run, I think we have documented very well how much Alex Caruso has been a spark plug for this Thunder team. And TJ McConnell has essentially been the same thing for the Pacers. And I think to that point, if TJ McConnell's in the game, they have to pay attention to the ball in the backcourt, because I can't count the number of times that's happened so far.
Yeah, Colby, we got Mark Daigneault at the podium, so we're going to take that right now. Let's go live to the coach after a tough Game 6 loss here.
Or no will, or whatever the word might be.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the turnovers in the first half, that's uncharacteristic for us to turn it over like that. that led to fast break points. I thought that's what ignited them. And a lot of it was an offensive issue, tonight, and especially in the first half. I just thought we were really stagnant. I thought some of that was, like I said, the way Indiana played. There's two teams out there, and they deserve a lot of credit for how they played tonight. So we'll look at it, learn from it, figure out what we need to do to be better, and we're going to go out there and execute it in Game 7.
Fourth row on the right, David.
Mark, I know you know this, and I know your players know this, but is it in any way instructive to them, being a young team that has never had a chance to clinch a championship before, to see how incredibly hard it is to win a fourth game to win an NBA championship?
It was hard tonight. Indiana was great, and we were not. So we have the same opportunity Indiana does on Sunday. Score will be 0-0 when the ball goes up in the air. It's a privilege to play in Game 7s. It's a privilege to play in the finals. As disappointing as tonight was, we're grateful for the opportunity. And we put in a lot of work this season to be able to play that game at home, which is exciting to be able to do it in front of our fans. So, obviously disappointed tonight, but we'll regroup, get back to 0, learn from it with clear eyes like we always do, get ourselves as ready as we can be to play Game 7 on Sunday.
First row, third seat in.
Joe Masato, the Oklahoman. Mark, when Indiana was going on kind of an extended run after you guys took an early lead in the first quarter, it looked like maybe there was moments where you could have called timeout. I know that didn't end up having any bearing on the game, but was that you sort of maybe waiting for your guys to show something, or kind of didn't want to give in to the crowd, or what Indy was doing?
I mean, the timeout thing's an art. You get I used 5 of them before the 7-minute mark of the third, so you don't get an unlimited number. And we have to have the ability to play through some things. I thought I tried to stop the play when I could, but all the way around, we just weren't where we needed to be tonight. But our ability to course correct in game is important. We've done that well. We have to do that in these games, 48-minute game.
I think you guys were 1 of 11 from 3 in the first half, and I'm not sure you even had a corner 3. And that's happened a few times in this series. How concerning is not only the lack of accuracy, but volume of threes at certain points of this series?
Yeah, it's definitely been an issue in some of these games. Game 4 comes to mind. I think we got 17 in that game. Thought we found some things in Game 5. And I thought they did a really good job on us tonight. I thought the low volume and the accuracy was reflective of the way they guarded us and our inability to create a rhythm against that, the way that we've been able to do in some of the other games. So we'll look at it, learn from it. We obviously have to be a lot better on Sunday if we want to win the game.
Last question, first row.
Joseph Pavone, clutch points. Just the beginning of that second half offensively, we went 0 for 5 from 3. Had a chance to regroup there. What did you see go wrong in the sense of, your offense throughout that second half, just from the third quarter to the end of or heading into the fourth?
Yeah, as disappointing as the first half was, the game is in striking distance at that point. If you come out and you throw the first punch, and we strung together some stops. I think it was 2-0 at the first time out, so it wasn't a defensive issue. But I just thought the offense all night was a click slow. Again, Indiana played great. They deserved to win. They had a lot to do with that, so not discrediting them at all. But we also have to look in the mirror, learn from the game, be a lot better on Sunday.
So you heard it there from the coach, guys. Poor shooting from 3, a lot of turnovers there. Did reference a little bit of the inability to sort of get their feet settled and click things into gear on offense. But, that's a formula in the NBA, especially the way the game's played now. You hit 8 threes in the course of a game and give the ball up 21 times. It's going to be a tough road out there.
Yeah, Coach Daigneault said it. Offensively, it was pretty ugly tonight. Turnovers. Didn't have very good assist numbers, certainly by any means. Didn't shoot it well, like you said also. Colby, I'm curious, from your perspective, being there and seeing it in person, just, I guess, the body language and just kind of the vibe of the arena, I guess, once Pascal Siakam gets that and one and things kind of flip after the start of the game, because it seemed like once Indiana kind of got off the mat after the good start, or the good start for the Thunder, that is, that it just really Thunder can never flip it back after that.
Yeah, I think in terms of arena vibes, this place was very timid at the start of the game. It was not roaring. You've heard a lot of comparisons with this place and the Paycom Center, and to start this game, it wasn't even close. I think the crowd was just very cautious about how excited they were going to get. Again, back against the wall, facing elimination, and it really took the Pacers climbing back in from the early deficit and taking the lead for the crowd to get going. Once they got going, the rest of the first half, the building was phenomenal. I did think the first few minutes of the third quarter might be among the worst minutes ever played in the history of the NBA Finals. The crowd was pretty quiet, I think, at that point, just from the basketball they were watching. And look, the Thunder had every opportunity. The Pacers left the door open for the Thunder to walk, limp, or crawl through the door in the third quarter and maybe try to fight their way back into the game, and the Thunder just couldn't capitalize. And then really, some big plays in the final minute of the third quarter slammed the door. Thunder waved the white flag in the fourth quarter with the bench lineup, and there you go. That was it.
But Josh, I'm glad you said that, because this is a young team that's been pretty stoic, right? They've taken on SGA's personality to a degree. So when you start seeing body language, especially in that third quarter and into the fourth, that's a big indicator that things are going a specific kind of way. Because a team that normally can kind of rally together and whether it's even just Caruso on the bench trying to fire these guys back up, it usually doesn't show, even when things are rough.
Well, to Colby's point, they got kind of back in it for a second there. They cut it to 18 in the third quarter, and we were all kind of, Colby and I are texting with him in Indy, and it was like, they're kind of still in this, especially with what they've done over the course of the season, managing to rally back from big deficits. But Indiana threw another punch and kind of knocked him out. That last few minutes of the third quarter just never could put together one of the patented Thunder runs where they get a bunch of turnovers and get things kind of rolling. That just never happened tonight. And obviously that was a big difference because they could just never cut into the deficit.
Yeah, we're going to have to see if the fan base can rally too. Christina's out at One Oak Field here where they had a great gathering, great watching. Christina, tough night for the fans out there as well. How's everybody doing as they sort of leave and get ready for Sunday?
Right now the fans are a bit disappointed. Here we are with a couple of OKC Thunder fans. What are your guys' thoughts right now?
We couldn't hit a shot, turn the ball over. Disgusting basketball, but it's a 7-game series. First to 4, not first to 3. So we're fine.
Like he said, 21 turnovers, 8 of 30 from 3. If we can't hit a shot, Indiana's got the series. But I have a feeling going back to OKC, we're going to hit some shots. We're going to get some help on the bench from Caruso, from Case and Wallace. We'll be all right. I'm not concerned.
Do you guys have a message for the Thunder team if they're watching right now?
Let me tell you something. Go to 2 in the end when you need 2 for the win. That's what I'm saying. We have the MVP. That's all that needs to be stated. We have the MVP.
Give it to 2. That's all I got to say.
Well, hopefully they'll give it back to SGA coming up this Sunday, but we'll be back to you guys back in Oklahoma City.
All right, thank you, Christina. And we got a Game 7 at home.
No doubt.
I thought we were going to get a Hulk Hogan promo for a minute there.
It's too bad. I got family up in Tulsa that told me that 1 it was jammed, like a big crowd. Yeah. So a bit of a bummer. But
we're gonna take
one more to go.
We're going to take a quick break. We don't want this to get too far off the ledge here. So we'll be back in just a few minutes with more on Game 6 and the Game 7 coming up. We'll bring you back into the end zone here after Game 6. The Thunder fall 91-108. Adam King, Josh Callaway. We got Colby Daniels on the ground in Indy. And just really, guys, we're in a tough spot here, right? Because this is one of those games, if this was a regular season game and things went like this, we would just disregard it like it didn't even happen. We'd move on. We'd go, hey, we got another game on Friday night somewhere on the road trip, and we'd keep this thing going. Just so happens to be Game 6 of the NBA Finals, so it makes that a little tougher conversation. Colby, in your wisdom and experience here, what do we think the mindset is now? Obviously we're coming back for a Game 7, so that's kind of like the surface level answer. But for a young team, this is going to leave a horrible taste in their mouth. What happens next here?
Well, it's certainly disappointing that with a championship potentially on the line for Oklahoma City that they fell this far short of matching Indiana's urgency, physicality, just overall want to, right? It wasn't on the same level at any point of this game, and the game got away early. Never really felt like OKC had a fighting chance unless Indiana allowed them to get back into the game. That's concerning that you're 48 minutes away from a championship and you fall short. Here's the good news. OKC has shown nothing but resilience after embarrassments this postseason, right? They've had heartbreakers. They've been embarrassed a couple times. They've had some no-shows for periods of games or entire games. And every single time that's happened, you maybe want to count them out, but they have shown to maybe think twice because they have bounced back in a very big way. One thing I will say about Game 7, despite the complete Indiana domination tonight, is 3 games have been played at the Paycom Center, and outside of the finale of Game 1, OKC has largely been the better team in those 3 games. 3 games have been played here at Indiana, and outside of the Game 4 finale, Indiana was largely the better team. Game 7's at the Paycom Center.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that you like to see when you get everybody home. And like Colby, you mentioned earlier, those role players, those bench players will probably do a lot better job when they're at home and things are familiar. We heard from Coach Daigneault a little bit there, and for the most part over the course of the season, we've seen him pull the strings in a pretty good way, a pretty well way, and at the end of the season even trying some new things and different things. What do you think? Pulling any different strings, making any changes, or is it kind of like, Josh, what Coley's been saying, these guys get home and you just let them do their thing because it seems to be working so far?
Yeah, I mean, probably not, right? You're in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. I don't think you'll do anything drastic. And like Colby said, at home, they've been a different team. And obviously the bench. And like Colby said, I mean, it's not like it was all in the bench tonight, but they did get nothing really bench production-wise until the fourth quarter. It was all bench guys. That'll be much better at home. I mean, Aaron Wiggins has been unreal at the Paycom Center this postseason. The lift he gives you off the bench. And so, yeah, playing in front of the home crowd, you'd imagine things will be a lot different, on Sunday night. This is why you get the 1 seed. And this is why, they won on Friday or on Monday night in Game 5. We talked about it then. At the very worst case scenario, you've got one more game, a Game 7 at home for everything, obviously on Sunday night. Now, obviously, the scary part is that it's a 1-game sample size, and it is 1 game for everything. Now, they have literally not lost 2 in a row the entire postseason. Like Colby said, they have responded every single time. Heartbreaker, blowout, whatever, they've answered the bell. But again, when it's 1 game for a title, I mean, that's a situation that, none of these guys have ever been in, so it's uncharted waters from that from that perspective. But I think you still have to feel confident if you're the Thunder coming back home. But this one, they'll stew on this one for a couple days, obviously. And the fact that Indiana played so well, and Tyrese Halliburton looks so good.
Right.
Maybe his best game of the series after all the calf conversation. There's some things. Indiana's going to come in confident, but I think Oklahoma City being back home, that's what you have to lean on the next couple of days for sure.
And it was a great point you made there, too. I do want to ask Colby as well, when, you get to this point where there's not a lot of experience on this team in situations like this. You've got Caruso with a title, 2020, but at what point do you think these guys just start to feel this moment a little bit? Maybe things get a little tight. I'm not trying to paint a grim picture. I'm just trying to overturn every stone here. Like, think about this in a realistic sense. Maybe some of those guys get on the court and they go like, oh boy, here we go. Like, this is it. What do you think, Colby?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that experience has a whole lot to do with it. I mean, Caruso certainly has won a championship for Indiana. I think Pascal Siakam is the only one that's been in this situation as well. So, I mean, you can really make that argument both ways. I think this just came down to OKC being up 3-2 on the road and not having to have this game and not matching Indiana fighting for its season. And look, there are definitely adjustments that can be made. There are tweaks that Mark Daigneault can make, and I'm sure that there will be buttons that he presses ultimately in Sunday's Game 7 matchup. But I think it starts and stops in terms of the conversation over Game 7 with you have to play with the same level of urgency as your opponent. You have to play like your season is on the line, and you have to, I think, handle the physicality that is brought. I kind of felt like OKC was in a position, especially with all the news about Tyrese Halliburton being hurt, I thought OKC was in a position to be the more physical team tonight, and that absolutely wasn't the case. They are going to have to match or bring more than the Pacers did tonight on Sunday.
Yeah, it was incredible to see because at the end of Game 5, I hate to keep referencing it, but at the end of Game 5, you could see the body language from Indy. They were over it. You could tell. It was like, and the same kind of thing had happened in the Denver games. We had body language from Jokic where he was like, I am tired of getting busted up and beat up every time I touch the ball. So that next level, when it's there, it is just an absolute nightmare for these other teams, home or road. We know they can get there, and we know it's in them to do it consistently. So it'll be interesting to see if a Game 7 lights up. I mean, it better.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is that, Oklahoma City basically did everything tonight that they couldn't do.
Yeah.
They let Indiana, after a good start, the first couple minutes, they let Indiana get out to a first quarter lead. They didn't shoot it well. They got 1 3 from the starting 5 tonight. It was Lou Dort, and nobody else, Chet, Shea, J-Dub, nobody else could hit a shot from outside. We talked about the bench production. They were sloppy with the ball, gave up some costly offensive rebounds at times tonight. I mean, they kind of did a little of everything that you just couldn't afford to do in this sort of spot. And then, again, it all comes back to the fact that they just didn't seem to match the urgency that Indiana was playing with their season on the line. So, something we've learned, I think, over the course of this playoffs, and it's fresh. It just happened, so I'm sure a lot of Thunder fans they're upset right now. But something we've learned over the course of this playoffs, one game means nothing going to the next game. I mean, it's just, this Thunder team has been incredibly good at flushing it and getting back to the drawing board to the next game. And so, I mean, you look at Minnesota, we talked about that game 3 earlier. They came right back and won game 4. That was in Minnesota after getting blown out by 40 plus, right? So I don't think it's, smash every panic button you have, but, at the same time, they did a lot of things tonight that they simply can't do if they're going to win on Sunday night. But again, it comes back to the fact that you're coming back home. You had to feel pretty good about that, obviously. But, it's just kind of, you hate to say it this way, but kind of one of those nights. Like, it just kind of everything that could have went wrong kind of did tonight.
Yeah, it just kind of stinks, right? Because it's Game 6. We take that thing that happened and it happens to everybody, and it just gets under a magnifying glass or under a microscope because there's just nowhere else to go with it. Colby, when we get to back home here, I mean, Game 5, those folks didn't sit down once.
Yeah.
That was wild. So we are going to get – I mean, what kind of environment do you think, like you said, today started off a little timid, things obviously changed. How do you think the Oklahoma City environment on Sunday night is going to match what you experienced today?
Game 5 is one of the best sports environments I've ever been a part of, and that's a very high bar, I will say. It was special inside the arena, really from about 30 minutes before tip-off, all through the game. Even in that third quarter when the Thunder were struggling, it felt like the crowd was really lifting them up as Indiana cut into the lead and ultimately made it a 2-point lead in the early stages of the fourth quarter. One of the best crowds I've ever seen at a sporting event. Multiple times, just being in the building, I got goosebumps just from the energy that the OKC crowd had. I think Game 7 is going to top that. Now, listen, the Thunder have to give a reason for the crowd to be loud, right? I mean, the crowd can be loud at the start of the game. They can cheer this team on throughout the game, but if the team doesn't respond in the right way, eventually the crowd can only do so much. So I think that they will have a giant lift from the OKC crowd, but the Thunder are also going to have to do their part.
Or we go ahead, yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, right on cue. I mean, you talk about the crowd being timid tonight. We have a lot of time to talk about Game 7 before then, but a good start will be huge. Obviously, get the place revved up and get into it, because that was one thing that was disappointing tonight. And again, it started off 10-2.
Yeah.
But after that, that Siakam and one, it kind of the avalanche started from there. They never really made Indiana have to sweat it tonight. And this was the first time the Pacers have trailed in a series all postseason. It's the first time, obviously, that they face elimination all postseason. And so there was a thought of maybe if you can at least just get a lead, that they'll feel it a little bit. They'll feel the weight of that. And the crowd, like Colby said at the beginning, will be a little on edge, and they just never really got that opportunity to do that tonight because they were in a hole and trying to climb out of it all night. So that's one really disappointing aspect if you're the Thunder coming in tonight, because you thought up a game, a chance to close it out. If we can put some heat on them, they might kind of crumble a little bit. But when you have a lead all night and a double-digit lead at that all night, you're not really, doesn't really come out that way.
Yeah, we're going to try to bounce this thing back. We're going to take a quick break here. We'll be back with a little more for you. I got a big question for these guys regarding some of those rotations and what's going on, so we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. We are back for you after the Thunder drop Game 6, 108-91. Adam King, Josh Callaway. We got Colby Daniels in Indy. We also have Chet Holmgren at the podium here. Let's hear what he has to say.
Barry Trammell, Tulsa World. Chet, what's the explanation for a game like that where literally nothing went right or worked for you?
Again, I don't think it's a one-sentence answer or one-word answer. But at the end of the day, no matter – there really is no explanation. There's no excuse. We have to be better. We have to execute better, from top to bottom, myself included. And I'm going to see where I can be better and, do my best to execute in Game 7 coming up.
First row here, Joe.
Joe Masato, the Oklahoman. Chet, how do you guys as a team balance the disappointment of not closing it out tonight versus knowing that you do have that Game 7 to fall back on?
Sorry, just trying to cut the emotion out of it. Obviously, that's frustrating. It's not fun. Nobody's happy right now. But you can't let the emotions kind of sidetrack you from what we need to do leading up to and during the game coming up. We've had wins and losses throughout the playoffs, so it's kind of similar mentality. Turn the page, don't forget what just happened, but see where you can be better and then try and apply it going forward.
Second row, middle.
Justin Martinez of the Oklahoman. Chet, for a series that's had such drastic swings and momentum, just how valuable is it to have this Game 7 at home in front of the crowd?
Obviously, it's a great opportunity. You could ask every team in the NBA, every team would take this opportunity, take this chance, and, we're no different, and it's on us to go out there and make the most of it.
Front row, Joel.
Joel Lorenzi, the Oklahoma. Chet, obviously you guys through this playoff run have had so many different, unique, and new experiences. What did you sort of learn about the difficulties of closing out a finals?
I'd say it's very similar to a closeout game in any series. No team's just going to roll over and go home. It's going to be really physical. There's not going to be any favors from the officiating. There's, it's really, you have to make it happen. It's not going to happen by accident. So, we have to learn the lesson from tonight and come back and be better.
Thank you, Chet.
All right, guys, so you hear from Chet Holmgren there after the Thunder lose this game. When you hear him talk about it, we've mentioned the resiliency a couple times here. That, to me, feels like a press conference of a guy who's already dialed in and locked in and ready to go. Like, get me there right now. That's a sign I like to see out of a competitor. It's like, I want to get this thing as far away from this thing as I possibly can. Let's reset and let's start over. Colby, what'd you think about what you heard there?
Yeah, I mean, not only what I heard, what I saw, I think he looked bothered by what happened tonight. And that tells me that this wasn't about just waiting to win at Game 7, right? They didn't do it as they didn't look at tonight as a mulligan. They wanted tonight. It didn't go their way. He looked very disappointed. We have Jalen Williams now at the press conference podium. Let's listen in.
It just got sticky. I feel like our defense wasn't very good, and when you're constantly taking the ball out and you're playing against a set defense over and over again, that's part of it. Other part, we didn't do a good job trusting each other to make the next play like we did Game 5, so we'll look at some things. Obviously, they made a couple adjustments, so we'll look at that too, but a lot of it was, just not trusting each other to make the right plays, and that starts with me being better, figuring out different ways to get my teammates involved and stuff like that. So the good news is we have another game to figure it out.
First row, Joel.
Joel Lorenzi with the Oklahoma. A little bit of a two-parter. You guys have talked a lot about the human elements of these games. I wonder, at any point did sort of the human element of knowing you had a Game 7 creep in, and what did you sort of learn today about how different it might feel to close a finals versus closing any other series?
No, the human element, well, I can't speak for my whole team, but the human element didn't creep in for me until we got blown out. So I didn't start thinking about Game 7 until we walked off the floor, or really when the game was kind of out of reach. But I think we had the right mindset coming into it. I think there was different things that we didn't do in the game well that hurt us. But closing out in the finals is different from playoff game because it's the end of the season. You know what I mean? And you play for so long that it just has more weight to it. Obviously, you want to win a championship, and you don't want it to feel like it was all for nothing. So that's been the biggest difference between closing out now as opposed to a Denver series or Minnesota. And I feel like they probably felt that way too. Like for them, being down 3-2, knowing that your season's like on the line and you're in the finals just has more weight to it.
Second row on the right, Malika.
J-Dub, you and I spoke a couple of days ago about the feeling of having expectations and then not meeting them that you all had, for example, last season. And now it's coming down to one game, winner take all. It's why you play, but does that thought of not having that same feeling again now start to creep in, knowing it's 0-0 again, essentially, in this series?
Yeah, that feeling has never really left for me. Again, I don't want to speak for the whole team. Like that's the human part of, playing a sport, is everybody's going to feel some type of way, but I've definitely had that feeling. Like the whole year I've had that feeling in December. You work really hard in the summer to get better at things, and when they don't come to light the way you want to, it's kind of easy to get off track and feel sorry for yourself. But at the same time, I try and be where my feet are. Like I'm in the NBA Finals at 24 years old in year 3. So I always try and keep that into perspective, and I'm just going to go into this next game and try and play hard and play better than what I did tonight. And wherever the chips fall, they fall, but I'm not going to go after this game and think like, oh, I didn't play hard, or, whatever the case may be, just relishing the opportunity.
Last question, Barry.
There you go. A very mature answer there from Jalen Williams.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. We're going to have final thoughts after this in just a minute. Welcome back, everybody. We got SGA on the podium right now. We want to take you right to him.
What is this like? Can that time help you at all, learning from that, and also being who you are? Do you feel like you have to put a cape on to ensure the championship?
Yeah, all those experiences help me for sure. The one and done experiences, do or die games. There's lessons from every game, but those games in particular for sure are going to help. And I don't feel like I have to do anything other than just be the best version of myself. And I think that goes for everyone else in the room. We just have to bring what we bring to the table, what we've brought to the table all year, and bring it at our best come Sunday.
First row here, Jenny.
Hey, Shay. Jenny Carlson with the Oklahoman. Take me onto that bench in the fourth quarter. You haven't sat a lot of fourth quarters in situations like tonight where you guys are losing. What's sort of going through your mind, and how does that time you're on the bench in the fourth go, just mentally how you're processing things?
Thinking about what you could have did better, or what I could have did better tonight. Also, watching the group on the floor was impressive. They were great. They haven't played all series, and then they go out there and play as hard as they did. It was inspiring, and they were really good tonight. Kind of taught me a lesson. And then just trying to do everything I can learn from to get ready for the next game.
First question here, right here on the right, Joel.
Joel Lindsay with Oklahoma. And Shay, a little bit of a two-parter. I think the broadcast caught you saying that Sunday's for all the marbles. I wonder how you're viewing this opportunity and sort of the weight of it.
It's one game for everything you ever dreamed of. If you win it, you get everything. If you lose it, you get nothing. And it's that simple.
Are you sensing any differences in the difficulty of closing out a finals versus closing out any other playoff series?
No, I see it as the same thing. Like in round 2, if we had lost, I would have been just as disappointed. We would have went home and our season would have been over. And if we lose, the season's over in the wrong way. So either way, I would have been extremely disappointed. So I don't think it's much different.
Thank you, Shay.
All right, there you have it, the MVP there, giving his thoughts and 2 cents as we move forward. So, guys, let's put a bow on this thing. Final thoughts, what you saw, what you're thinking about as we got the next couple days now to look ahead to Game 7. Colby, what do you think?
Well, at 7:30 tonight, I think there was a lot of excitement about what the Thunder could achieve. 48 minutes away from an NBA title. pretty disappointing product overall after this game comes to its conclusion. The positive thing is, through 6 games, the Thunder have been largely the better team at the Paycom Center outside of the Game 1 finale. There were 3 games at Indiana, and the Pacers were largely the better team in those 3 games outside of the finale of Game 4. So the home team has clearly been the better basketball team through 6 games in this series. Game 7 is at the Paycom Center. I expect that it's going to be one of the all-time great sports environments. It's already one of the great crowds in all of sports. I think they're going to bring it, and I already consider myself pretty lucky to be in the arena on Sunday. I think it's going to be spectacular, and again, we'll see what happens. It's win or go home now, and the Thunder have bounced back with a ton of resilience every time they face adversity.
Yeah, I loved what Chet Holmgren said back in his press conference. He was asked about Game 7, and he said, look, any team in the NBA would sign up for this. 1 game at home for everything, for the title, right, on Sunday on your floor. So Oklahoma City got to go get it. I mean, it's right there for you. It's why you play for the 1 seed, to get these games at home on Sunday. And look, we talked about it. They have not lost twice at all, twice in a row consecutively in the entire postseason. They only did it twice all year. Once was in April when they sat everyone because they already had the 1 seed. The other time was back in November. Yeah. So basically, they don't lose twice in a row really ever, right? So they have to do it again one more time on Sunday. SGA talked about it just now. We just heard him, that in his mind, it's you either win the title or you don't, right? There's no levels to it. That's been their mindset this entire season. They just refused to ever really acknowledge what they were doing at any point. And now you got 1 game for everything. Your whole season leads up to this. It's going to be really, really exciting. I can't wait to get there. It's going to be nuts. Like Colby said, probably as good of a sports atmosphere as any of us will ever experience in our lifetime on Sunday night. And can't wait. I think you have to feel confident, but who knows? It's a Game 7, and it's unpredictable. That's sports, but it should be a lot of fun on Sunday night.
Well, I'm with Chad. I want to get this thing on the back burner as fast as we can. Colby, I'm never going to forget you saying that was like the worst third quarter of basketball that you've ever seen. We appreciate your work out there for us, man. Get home safe, easy travels. There's going to be a really packed stadium waiting to see you guys on Sunday. And for everybody at home, Sunday night, it all comes down to this. That'll do it for us here at the End Zone. We appreciate you sticking around with us tonight, and we will see you on Sunday, as they say, for all the marbles.